All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Yes, it's Chicago Junction, being the radio program that is all about everything that is railroading. Now here's our boss, the head of the Windy City Hometown Radio Network, as well as being the chief electrical engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Monday, April the 18th, the year 2016. Today the panel will be talking about railroad and model railroads. And now, to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Yes, I am Brian Valou, your announcer for the day. And want to remind you that the opinions expressed are the following program are not necessarily reflect those of the station, the management, or the Windy City Hometown Network. Nobody takes responsibility for any of us. And now here's our host with the most, Mr. Jack Red Ryan.
It's the American way, Brian. Don't take responsibility. No, there are no more Harry Trumans around, right?
Correct.
There's this is where the buck passing stops. But anyway, hello everybody. Hello. Sorry I missed last time. I was, it seems like if I didn't have any bad luck, I'd have no luck at all lately. Everything's going wrong, and the warranty is all passed on the body. So hips can't hear, can't see, can't walk. So, but that's
you're still electable.
That's the bright side. Hello. We are running a little late today, but the three of us are here, and we, as usual, will be having a good time. And it's on the 18th of April, but not in 75. You know, the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. Anyone remember that poem? Henry Wadsworth.
Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere.
It was the 18th of April in 75, and hardly now a man alive remembers that famous day. Well, nobody's alive now, I don't think. This is one of these super creatures. What do you call them now? What do they call them? Sasquatch or something?
The Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Yeti. Abominable Snowman.
Yeti is Swiss.
Yeti. Anyway, Brian, we just met you.
Yes, I am a rail fan. I blog to several rail organizations for both prototype and models, from the Reading Historical Society, the Heston Steam Museum, Chicagoland Garden Railway Society. Plays with model trains. And I'm also a presenter for Operation Lifesaver. The safety for being around trains. And having a great time. And had a lot of fun doing it, playing with trains today.
And beside that, you were a careerman in the U.S. Navy. And you also were an engineer.
That is correct. I was a locomotive engineer and conductor for the Union Pacific and for Metra. And, yes, 24 years in the Navy playing with guns.
Yeah. It's unusual to see someone who's a buff actually work in the field, it seems like, doesn't it? I mean, police fans are never policemen. Fire wannabes, they're fans, but they never are. Seems like it.
But we know how much fun it is, so that's why it is
you
great
get paid
to
for
do.
it then.
Yes.
Anyway. Okay. And sitting to my right, Kevin Barry, my boyhood hero.
Not the one from Irish Legend, sir.
Okay.
I'm a retired Chicago police sergeant, lifelong Lionel fan. I affectionately refer to it as having the sickness. Once you start with your Lionel trains, you may set them down for a short period of time, but you're going to come back to them. I've now got both of my grandchildren playing with Lionel trains, I'm a member of the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I am a merit badge counselor with the Boy Scouts for several merit badges, including the railroading merit badge. And we'll talk about that coming up a little bit later. And I brought in a I brought in a flat car that was made by Menards and is available to the general public. And when Uncle Brian gets a chance to talk about the excellent engine that he brought in, steam engine, then I'll talk about the flat car.
Okay, I'm Jack Ryan. I have no background like that. My family, quite a few of them were railroad lifelong employees. My grandfather and my Uncle John and my cousin were all switchmen on the Chicago Junction Railroad, hence the title. And my dad, he was one of those people that knew all the history of railroads and everything about them, but never worked for the railroad. And we have fond memories at the Chicago Junction picnic in the summer, the CJ. Someone said, "This isn't the CJ, it's the Ryan picnic," because all the cousins were always there. And this was a far different time. It was a chartered train, 63rd in LaSalle there. We'd go out to Michigan City for the day to Washington Park there, which had the most beautiful beach, picnic area, amusement park, zoo, and a trail leading up this giant dune or whatever it was to a tower, observation tower. And we'd spend the whole day there. You let your kids run around, not worry about it. And I don't know if they have anything like that there today. The last I heard, Michigan City had a lot of outlet stores. We used to get off the train, and the Smith Brothers cough drops was there. And have their pictures. It says Smith Brothers, and on each side of the logo would be one of the Smith Brothers. And the guy to the right, his name Mark, was underneath his name. So what was the other guy's name? But Trade.
Yeah.
So we thought his name was Mark. It was trademark. But Mark, who's the other guy? It was Trade. But anyway, but we digress. Okay. We had some. Anybody want to start with some news or anything? Want to start
Well,
with?
yeah. One of the things that we talked about last month was the opposed merger between Southern Pacific trying to take over Norfolk Southern. Well, as of Monday, CP's calling it quits. They're not going to fight NS anymore, and with all the tactics they were trying. So that's quits, and everybody else enjoys that.
Who was fighting, the feds or?
No, Norfolk Southern.
Oh, was this one of those hostile takeovers?
Yeah, it was one of those. Southern Canadian Pacific was trying a hostile takeover, and how well it is. And one of the things that's been going on is they've been making general moves to try and save money on Norfolk Southern. And that's why they cut back on the road railer program, and a few others saying, yeah, this will save us a lot of money. And so we're some of us are sitting back saying some of the moves they made were not, they'll see some savings quickly, but long term it's going to hurt them. And let's see, Metra begins its construction program. Now, to whether they finally announced that. They started last week, and I already hear some of the whistles blowing for track work on the Northwest line to Harvard. They're going to do a lot. They have a lot of projects. They're going to do 27 stations this year out of the 241.
That's upgrades or new?
Upgrades. Make improvements and renovations. Okay, we'll go by that.
Okay.
A lot of them is going to be done on the electric line. A lot of track bridge work. Some bridge work is going to be done on 5 bridges on that line. Bridges on also the Burlington Northern, going out to Aurora, UP West, the Milwaukee lines going out to Big Timber. And they're going to get new platforms. Improvements are planned for LaSalle, 103rd Street, 123rd Street, and Prairie Street stations on the Rock Island line.
103rd Street station. It's a beautiful old station, but it is sorely in need of maintenance.
Yeah.
It could really use a complete rebuild like they did at 111th Street 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, on the Milwaukee line, Northbrook Station will receive a $325,000 makeover. UP's lines, they figured about $600,000.
What's UP?
Union Pacific.
Union Pacific.
Okay, I'm just.
And plus even Union Station, the Madison Street exit to go down to Union Station, which is right across from where the entrance is for Randolph, the old Chicago terminal. The Ogilvy Center.
Yeah.
But that's going to start.
Thank God they didn't name a station after Ryan.
My cousin George.
But
just kidding. Just kidding.
There was an old diesel that got a new facelift. A switcher built in the 40s, early 40s, by the Baldwin Locomotive Works. The short line that it ran on was the Texas Southeastern, and it still operates. It has sister locomotives used for spare parts, but it's an old Baldwin, and R.J. Corman had purchased that short line. So they painted it in the R.J. Corman colors. So you can see this beautiful red and white locomotive running around. She looks pretty good.
You get down in, I believe it's in Kentucky. Corman actually runs a dinner train down there.
Yeah. Out of Lexington?
I think so.
Yeah, Lexington.
I'd love to do it when we're down there visiting with my daughter and son-in-law and grandkids, but it's like 180 miles from Nashville to the dinner train, and
well, yeah, you're like
I don't feel like driving 3 hours for dinner.
But yeah, it's the my old Kentucky dinner train.
Yeah.
They keep it in a beautiful glass house and everything. And they still got it going strong.
So what happens? You get on the train, it makes a loop of some kind, come around with you?
Well, it goes down the line, and it'll actually go down one way, and then you'll retrace your steps, and you're having dinner. Usually moving anywhere from 10 to 15 mile an hour.
Yeah. Interesting, though.
But you're basically it's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour trip total, and the dinner is preparations are made like on some dinner trains. Usually the main course is prepared on the train, but a lot of several of the dinner trains had the meals almost prepped, and they just finished the preparation on the train. One where the meals purchased fixed on the train is the Napa Valley Wine Train. They grow their own vegetables. They have an acre of land. They grow their own vegetables for the salads and soups and such, and you can walk through the train and walk past the kitchen car and just watch them cook up your lunch.
There is a book entitled Zephyr by Henry Kaiser, and it was written back in the 80s.
We have a call. Can we go interrupt?
Yes, please.
We have a caller. Go ahead, caller. Who is this?
Hi, this is Dave Daruska.
David? David Darushka?
Is this dialing for diesels? Am I the first caller?
You are the first caller. We know that. What's going on, David?
What's going on? Oh, well, I told you, I'm without a car tonight, so I couldn't make it.
So no, you're on assignment, remember?
Yeah, I'm on assignment. I'm the raving reporter.
Okay. What do you got? Anything for us?
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Let's see, from RailwayAge.com, Siemens has just delivered their first Charger locomotive. And these are the diesels that are going to be used by some of the state Amtrak services. The first high-performance Charger diesel-electric passenger locomotive is rolled off the line in the Siemens manufacturing plant in Sacramento, California, and will soon begin testing and qualifying. It operates at speeds of up to 125 miles an hour, a 16-cylinder, 95-liter displacement engine rated at 4,400 horsepower that was manufactured at the company's Seymour, Indiana plant. I guess it's a Cummins engine. Now, they're going to have all these new locomotives, but they're not going to have any cars to run with them because Sumitomo of Japan, which is designing the new cars for the state services, appears it's going to be unable to fulfill the order within the given deadline, which was 2017. The cars failed the crush test, and they have to go back to the drawing board with the cars. And it looks like they're not going to have them finished. Let's see. The stimulus-funded cars must be completed by September 2017, and missing the deadline would result in any unspent money for the cars being redirected by the federal government. And this all started out with the intent of having a car built in the United States 100% by American, and unfortunately, they've had problems with that.
These are the cars that are going to look very similar to the California Surfliner double-deckers?
Yes.
It's a shame. They're nice-looking cars.
Yeah, unfortunately, let's see. I'm reading from the Wall Street Journal here online. All this stuff I posted on our Facebook page, if anyone's interested in checking them out. 5 years after winning the $343 million contract to build 130 long-distance rail cars for Amtrak, a Spanish company is struggling to complete their order as well. The work was supposed to be completed by 2015, but as of late last year, the company's California USA subsidiary had turned out 70 baggage cars from their plant in Elmira Heights, New York, and nearly 400 defects were identified in the first 28 baggage cars delivered. So, once upon a time, they built good rail cars in the United States, but it seems that the foreign manufacturers are having difficulties building a usable car for the American market.
Well, isn't it some of the new rules that the Congress has passed?
Yes, and let's see, I can go to that one. There was an article in Street Blog USA, how federal rules make it harder to build trains in America. And, the problem can be traced to two regulations: the strict Buy American manufacturing requirement and the Federal Railroad Administration's unusual safety rules. 2008 stimulus bill included a Buy America provision that compelled the winning bidder to build its trains entirely in the U.S. with domestically sourced components and materials. The problem is America doesn't have much of a passenger rail car industry, in part because the passenger train market is pretty small. To comply with the law, the Japanese company had to set up a subsidiary in the U.S. and build a brand new $100 million plant. That was the easy part. And that was the same plant in New Rochelle, is it? New Rochelle or Rochelle, Illinois, that did the Metro Electric cars. And then they switched over to building cars for Amtrak. Read some more. America's mandate for rail cars that can withstand these crash tests is unusual, and it makes the train more expensive to build and operate without actually making them safer. So that's the story there.
It figures.
And this last Saturday, I went to the annual conference for the Rail Photo and Art group out of Madison, Wisconsin. Very interesting program. I only went Saturday. They had programs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Mm-hmm. But a fun time was guaranteed by all.
Where was it held there, Dave?
Lake Forest College.
Yeah. I'm sort of familiar with Madison. The picture.
Yeah, they come down here every year to do an annual photo conference. Essentially, the presenters give various presentations about different aspects of rail photography. You have some older photographers who have been working for decades, and they're bringing in younger photographers now to show some of their work. And it's interesting.
Like so many other fields, I mean, it's like a subgenre in itself, isn't it, in photography?
Yeah, it is. It truly is. It's a niche, very much of a niche, but it's a lot of people, of course, I belong to a bunch of groups on Facebook that are rail photography-oriented groups, so there's a lot of guys out there taking train pictures. Let's see. You guys talk at all about the Amtrak crash near Philly?
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah, it appears that the two men that were killed on the backhoe were probably in violation of numerous safety rules.
Also the dispatchers.
Yeah, also the dispatchers. They haven't quite figured out who's responsible, or they haven't said who's responsible yet. Whether the dispatcher routed the train on a dead track, or whether the guys had received permission to get on the track, or whatever the story was, or if they just got on themselves. I guess there had been track work going on the previous evening, and they may have made the assumption that the track was still theirs when they got on.
Yeah, the machinery wasn't shunted, and...
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a PTC territory now, positive train control, but they have to shunt the track.
To let them know that they're on it.
Yep.
Yeah, the only thing definitive that's been said was Schumer had said that Amtrak told him there's a 20-step safety process involved when there are workers on a track that is or was formerly live, and they haven't determined how the backhoe was on a live track. Charles Schumer, I think he's the state rep from New York, although I don't know how he got involved in something in Pennsylvania unless he's on that committee.
Politics is politics.
Unless there was a camera in front of him somewhere.
Yeah, unfortunately. How do you turn a genius into an idiot? Put a camera in front of him. Not that I'm saying Schumer's a genius.
Remember, the opinions expressed in this.
And I also let them know about all the work that Metra's doing.
Yes, it's spring, time for track work.
Oh, yes.
Metra's taking its time getting rid of the deactivated electric passenger cars. There's 6 of them sitting out in the yard at 127th Street and foot of Prairie, and there's 4 or 6 of them sitting in Kensington Yard. I guess they're having a problem moving them out. They've done a nice job of cannibalizing them, but the cars are still there.
What do you mean, taking parts, or?
Yeah,
I can't imagine what they'd be using them for.
Well, all the catenaries are gone off all the cars.
Yeah, the pans, yeah.
I would think that they would probably take the glass out of the windows, because but I have no idea exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, they're one of the biggest problems with the cars is they're full of asbestos. Difficult to scrap. No scrap dealer wants them.
I was thinking that the pop-out emergency windows might be worth trying to recover, but Brian's giving me the that's not a good idea sign.
How would you accomplish something like that?
That's a very good question. I'm going to shut my mouth before I embarrass myself further.
No, I need to laugh.
Thank you, sir.
There was another wreck today between Amtrak and a truck out in Galva. Truck pulled in front of an Amtrak train. The driver didn't make it.
That's unfortunate. I saw some footage of the Amtrak versus liquid whatever type of fuel truck it was from 2 weeks ago, and I actually was surprised that the liquid gas hauler didn't split from the impact, but apparently it ripped a couple of valves loose because it was spewing pressurized fuel into the atmosphere. If I remember correctly, it was the better part of 2 days before the people in the town were allowed to come back into the town.
I can remember they gave us a day, or was it 1 day of in-service hazmat training, and when you start learning and look at all these symbols that are on the side of these railroad cars, you tend to want to back up, not park quite so close when you're waiting to pass, because who knows? We saw some good films too. Remember those, Ken?
Yeah, I know the one
Kevin?
you're talking about. It's the one from, I believe, New Mexico, where there's a valve was defective on a Linde, Linde, short tank car, bright Kelly green over white, and it was filled with liquid propane gas, and it was a small department. It was a short chassis Ford pumper, and they pulled up to within 20 foot of the tanker and started hosing it down, and that's when it went into what's called a blivy, boiling liquid violent explosion, and the truck was incinerated. The truck was blown 200 yards. All they found of any of the firefighters were the D-rings on their turnout coats, and the half of the car that stayed on the track was propelled half a mile down the track before
That's what I
it
was
stopped.
thinking of. Like a missile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's when everything goes right, it's wonderful. If it goes bad, it goes bad
All the way, yeah.
big time.
Yeah. You get a healthy respect for the for that stuff.
Bruce Willis couldn't figure out how to make it go badder.
We should have him on as a guest.
So, what you guys bid on the 80-ton locomotive that Schmolin posted on Facebook? 80-ton with a flatbed rail car.
And their side rod too.
Yeah, and the winning bid was $580.
Yeah, but now he's got to move it.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't look like it's in operable condition. It's pretty raw.
Yeah, it was. Military.
Yeah.
Okay, what else we got? You stick around for a while here, Dave?
Yeah, sure.
There was an article in the Red Eye from Tuesday of last week. We've talked about the 606 trail a couple of times. The 606 trail, they are now developing plans to extend the 606 to the lakefront. And the 606 trail was honored with the American Planning Association's 2016 National Planning Excellence Award for Urban Design for the use of the old railroad high line and its conversion into a track that people can walk and bicycle on. Although they're now starting to have some problems with it, with certain uncivilized members of the gentry victimizing the users. So I would imagine when the warm weather comes that the district bicycle team will be up on the 606.
Well, we got to do something.
Yep.
Are we about down to break time here? Yes? Take it away. We got a little break, folks. Brian? John?
You are listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, April the 18th, the year of our Lord 2016. And this is WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois. And now back to Chicago Junction and our panel.
John, can you say in the year of our Lord without offending someone now and then? Is this still okay? I don't know. Is this still all right?
Oh, well, we could say in the year of the flying spaghetti monster.
I had a number of years ago when they had these for a while at the parish, like a Bible studies. It seemed like they were always at the wrong time. Well, I was working afternoons, and it was days. I went in for a while. Wouldn't you know, some of the material from some Catholic press had, instead of AD and BC, it had before Common Era and Common Era, the new secular version of this. I can't believe they went with that. Anyway, I just had to throw that in there. Where are we now?
So, well, speaking of bike trails, there's a new trail under consideration in Pilsen, the old Illinois Northern line that originally was built by International Harvester to service the factories in that area, including the big Harvester plant. Later became a Santa Fe line, I believe. I believe the BNSF was the last railroad to operate industry job on there. Well, the line has been abandoned, and the city's going to consider turning into a hike bike trail.
Is you referring to the Mi Villa trail?
The what?
Mi Villa. We talked about it briefly last month. There's a community organization developing input on it because it's going to go through 2 or 3 neighborhoods.
Whereabouts is this?
It starts over around 31st and Kedzie and winds its way past 26th in California.
Okay. Yeah.
Most people might remember seeing the track that lies just outside the wall on the at 26th and Cal on the south side of 26th Street.
Yes.
And runs parallel
Yeah.
to the wall of County Jail,
Mm-hmm.
and then curves away to the southwest. That's what they're talking about developing.
Right. I guess there's a historic swing bridge involved, too, that is still there across the South Branch, which is no longer navigable.
Mm-hmm. Not to change the subject, but there's a remnant of an old L system around 4000 South that runs toward the lake. Does anyone know what that is? Or may not be much of it left now, but there was apparently had maybe something to do with the World's Fair at one time, or no?
The only tracks that I'm familiar with over around 40th and the lake are the IC tracks.
No, not those. It runs east-west.
Oh, you're talking about the Chicago Junction that serviced the stockyards?
No, not that. No. This would be more east. East, like Bronzeville area and no?
Yeah, the Chicago Junction ran, I think it connected with the IC about 46th Street or 44th Street.
Yeah.
And
Well, also
west, and then it also,
Yeah.
the elevated used, the Stockyards L used.
I mean, that's it.
Used part of the trackage as well as the
The High Line is there, but all the viaducts are gone.
Right.
By the
Yeah, the roadbed's still there.
The viaducts are all gone because it was easier to cut the bridge sections and take them down than try to maintain them.
Chicago Junction I've heard of. My family worked for them, so that's where the name came from here, by the way. I mentioned that earlier, but you weren't present then, David.
There's when you get east of Drexel, there's a big mural painted on one section of the High Line.
I know where that is, yeah. Yeah, okay. Maybe it is part of the same thing, I don't know. There may be nothing left of what I'm talking about now, though.
The concrete support structure, and I want to say it's somewhere between 40 and 60 foot wide from north to south.
Yeah.
You know, where it butts up against, faces the street, are there, but all of the girders and the rail and everything is gone.
I think yeah, that's it then. We know. Okay, see, I learned something today, folks. You see, we always learn something on our show. Next up, what do we got?
Okay.
We talked about the non-starter with the NS and CP merger.
Yep.
Yep.
Gone.
Gone.
Kaput. If anybody's been following Thomas and Friends in the recent years, he's a lot more locomotives have joined Thomas and Friends, including Japanese, actually an American Climax, and several other logging locomotives. Well, yeah, the new owner licensing of Thomas and Friends is Mattel Toys.
Aha.
They took it over several years ago.
They own the
from
whole
Hit.
thing?
Yeah.
Now, you know they're adding a Canadian locomotive.
Nope.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they're adding a Canadian locomotive. It's going to be called Hunter, and he's going to come in and take over the take over the railroad.
Take over the island of Sodor.
Wants it or not? No, it is true. You're going to have a Canadian locomotive. It looks like one of the streamline locomotives from the Grand Trunk and Western.
Well, there is a 484 that's going to make an appearance, and it's going to be called Shane. Is going to be his name, and it comes from South Australia.
Good day.
Yep.
Fair dinkum.
From South Australia down, they ran on the 5-foot gauge line down. It was a northern that they built in the 40s, and the inspiration for the streamlined design was the Pennsylvania T1 duplex with the shark nose.
Cool.
And that's what the way they streamline their locomotive. I actually got to see it when we were in Adelaide and went to the Railway Museum close to there. And everybody else telling me how crazy I was while they went to the wineries. But I found some friends there that I went to the wineries with, and it was better.
Yeah. Wine you can get anywhere.
But the still locomotive, the 520 class, does, and the locomotive they're basing it on is actually named Sir Malcolm Barclay Harvey. So that'll be entering the lineup this year.
And Thomas?
Yep.
On your Thomas and Friends. I know the grandsons haven't watched it as much, but I know when they did see it, there are different, like you say, different characters, different trains, and there's different music. So they added some different music to it also. So.
Well, I hope Sir Adam Barclay Harvey has a good bootmaker, because if he's a 5-foot stance, he's going to need a good set of boots to ride on English rail. He'll have to have the same set of boots that the decapod up at the Illinois Railway Museum has to wear.
Now,
I wonder how long it'll be before Lionel adopts that one for the Thomas side, because I think they're up to 5 or 6 engines now. You get Thomas, Percy, Diesel.
Before they started entering all the new ones that they have over the past couple of years, there was 18 locomotives.
Well, and Lionel, I know, makes 4. I think they make 6. James and Percy and Thomas and Diesel, and beyond that, we have one guy that all he does on open house is he runs all of the Thomas engines on the 16-foot by 5 foot 4-inch double track, double oval layout. And if a kid goes missing, we know exactly where the kid is. He's up in the mezzanine drooling over Thomas.
Yeah. Well, speaking of kids, if anybody, unfortunately it was today, so we couldn't talk about it on here, but at the Melrose Park Public Library, the men from the Heston Steam Museum in LaPorte, Indiana, came in bringing one of the Kittyland locomotives, the 484 Northern that was streamlined locomotive that was there. The museum officially owns it now, and they're starting to raise funds. to put it in. The boiler is sound because they filled it with air to blow the whistle, and they need $45,000 to do a complete overhaul, which is not bad. That means there's not a lot of tubes to replace. But they were on display. Ted Rita, who is the general manager and superintendent, he was there, and also the president of the board of directors, the Bill Gardner, was also there, and talking with them. I'm looking forward to going out and working on weekends.
You've worked there before, correct?
Yes, I do.
Volunteer work.
Volunteer.
Yeah.
And yes.
Do they have track ready right now for that engine to run on, or will they have to?
No, the track's there. They've been running the sister, the Hudson.
Okay.
They've got a 1.5 mile loop.
Cool.
14-inch gauge track.
I vaguely remember once riding one of the steam engines at Kittyland, back when I was like under 5 foot and under 125 pounds, neither of which I've seen in ages.
Did you ever ride them, Dave?
What's that?
The Kittyland locomotives.
No. No, I came to Chicago in the late 60s. And I was a bit older then. I did go out to Kittyland once with a bunch of hippies. But
Oh, you had fun.
no, we did.
Was Riverview still open then, or
No,
67 they closed, right?
right.
Yeah, I came here in 68.
Oh, we just missed it.
You came for the convention and stayed?
Hey, Jack, I think that line you were talking about was the Kenwood branch of the L.
Could be.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
left the main at Indiana, went to South Park, Vincennes, Drexel, Ellison Lake Park, and 42nd Place. End of the line, right on the lakefront.
You're talking about Kittyland. When I was with WJJG, we did a 3.5 hour remote broadcast from Kittyland just the day before they closed their doors forever. And I rode on that on that train that you guys are talking about, and the place was jammed with people, and it was just a sad day to see the last amusement park to close its doors.
Well, I was there, wasn't I? With a historian show? We were out there with historians.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was, Jack. Yeah. But I had telephone wires strung all over the place, and we did a big remote broadcast from over there.
But it was nice. They've got had the table set up at after 5 to like 6:30. They were going to serve drinks and popcorn and stuff. They had a table there set up selling shirts and all for the fundraising. And when I was talking to Ted, he was telling me they were going to come back. Apparently, there's a restaurant near there that's kind of like a landmark where the people used to eat before going to Kittyland, or that's where they went afterwards. And they're bringing the locomotive in and putting it on display there. So when I find out, I'll let you know.
Yes, please.
I passed the site today coming here. So, anyway.
Well, we're slowly coming down in size of the trains we're talking about.
Yeah.
And last week something we've started a couple times, and last week we bought some trains in to talk about, and Kevin and I showed up again today, and I bought an unusual one called a Camelback. One hump. I know you were going to ask.
Dromedary, right?
Yes.
No, Bactrian sounds more like a train. Bactrian?
The switcher, I've got an 060 switcher based on a Reading locomotive design from the Reading Company. This type of locomotive was actually popular in the Northeast, where anthracite was.
The good call.
Yes. And where the famous blue coal comes from. Big sponsor of the Shadow.
Yeah.
The Glen Ellen Coal Company. Anyway, but they did it. It came about because they found out the narrow fireboxes that were being used at the time were not good for burning anthracite, because it doesn't burn well in a thick fire. You have to have a thin fire, thin layer of coal. And actually, there was the last issue of Trains magazine in the back where it says "Ask Trains," and somebody asked the difference between a Mother Hubbard and a Camelback, and they had some information in there that was not complete. They were talking about being made in 1878 by Mr. John Wooten, who was the master mechanic for the Philadelphia and Reading Company. And he came up, he figured it out, and what it is, he widened the firebox out. They call it a Wooten firebox. So that way you can make a thin fire burning the coal, the anthracite, and without it being too thick. And all he had to do was just move the cab up to the middle of the locomotive, where it is a little warm for the engineer, but virtually there's no protection for the fireman. He stood on the back on the platform. Sometimes they had a little, what they call a roof, and but that's how they shoveled in the coal while the engineer was watching up there. And every once in a while, he'd see the fireman wave the no, you haven't gotten rid of me yet. Because they made passenger versions of it. Jersey Central was very famous for them, even the Baltimore and Ohio. They had Pacifics, the Lehigh Valley.
Well, what years would this be?
Well, this would go from, they stopped making them in 1922. They passed a law because they said they were dangerous. But those that were still there, they used, and they actually on the Jersey Central ran right up until 1957, 56, 57.
Mm-hmm. All right. Which one of the roads used Phoebe Snow?
The Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western.
Okay. And she rode the train all day and night in her dress of sparkling white, and that's all I can remember. But I know it had something to do with the anthracite.
She enjoyed the ride on the road to anthracite.
Okay.
But yes, the number on the locomotive I got, this locomotive was actually made by Pico. It's G gauge. And the number on it, 1399, is an actual number. But the tender that they had on it was rectangular, is the way the Pico sold it, because, you know, they have to use what's available. Well, a friend of mine, Jonathan Truberg, who makes oil, he makes XL lubricants for model railroading and race cars, liked the design of the Reading, so he actually scratch-built a tender body for me of the Reading.
It's nice to have friends.
It's a stubby slope-back tender, but that way it would carry a lot more water and a lot more coal. But yeah, the guy by the name of Weans for the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad actually made them back in 1847 and 1848. He built 3 of them. And what he did, he made the fireboxes were still narrow, but they were long. They actually had several places where the firemen could drop in coal. And he walked up the back of a slanted boiler, and they had the whole covering up top, and that where the engineer was.
So this design dates back to them, like?
Yeah.
It does have an older look about it to me, you know.
And the design came back, and those were the actual camels. And there were 3 of them made, and then he made one on 080 that was for switching and pushing uphill, which was a big bust. But then that design was picked up by the Baldwin Locomotive Works, and they made a bunch of 460s, which there are a couple still in existence from back then, the 1840s or early 1850s. There's one in St. Louis at the museum there, Transportation Museum. There's one in the B&O Museum of the early designs made by Baldwin. And then when Wooten came out with this design, they were actually called Mother Hubbards first, and then became Camels. And then there are 3 of them left. One is a switcher, an 040 switcher, that was working in Pittsburgh, or Pottstown, Pennsylvania, and was owned by the Reading. It was an original Reading switcher, company switcher that they used until the 60s when it was sold to the Strasburg Railroad.
By switcher, this would be something in the yard that would just...
Right, yeah, basically switching around the yard.
Building,
Not made for far trips.
It was like putting a train together, is that it?
Yeah, putting a train together,
Yeah.
or if industry was close by, it could take stuff to the industries.
Yeah.
There is a passenger locomotive, a 442, which is an Atlantic type, C&J, Central Railroad in New Jersey, in the B&O Museum. And also, there's one in the Transportation Museum in St. Louis. That's Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western. And it's a 440, or American type. And they, the one in Baltimore and in St. Louis, they're both passenger engines.
It is a unique design, and please don't reach across the table and hit me, but it's cute.
Oh, steam locomotives are always cute.
No, some of them are beautiful.
That is true.
The 611. Oh,
I can remember when I
sex
was a-
on steel wheels.
I was about 10, and the tracks around 47th and just west of Halstead, they were hauling in a lot of old steam engines for scrap, you know. It looked like it was like the burial ground for these, and I wonder how many we saw when I used to go over from where we lived back to my grandmother's house and visit, and I was just like, wow, look at this. Where are they going? Like, well, you know, I'm thinking they're,
No place
Yeah.
good.
you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, and what's unique is they actually built, there was, the Erie Railroad had 3 Malays, 0880s, used for pusher service, and they were Camelbacks. And then the engines got rebuilt and became 2882s. And they put the cab in the back, but still kept the wide firebox. And since somebody listening is a big diesel man, you know, he's probably gagging on when I'm talking about steam. Okay, Dave?
Huh?
Huh?
Well, I'm going to sign off, guys.
Hey, listen,
All right.
thanks
Thank you for
calling,
calling in, boss.
and we're glad you could participate.
Yeah, let me know what when we're doing this again next
Yeah,
month.
well, you know, it's a shame I didn't know earlier. I could have come and gotten you. You've picked me up enough, as is Kevin.
Oh, that's okay. I'm chilling out here today.
Oh, chilling?
Chilling.
Like
Oh,
a
The
vin-
only thing I miss is my Dunkin' Donuts and coffee.
Oh.
One of my traditions going home. I grab a donut. and a
Well,
cup
you weren't
of
a policeman, were you?
Hmm?
You weren't a policeman talking about donuts. You know, the whole habits die hard, right? I keep telling people, not the donuts, it's the coffee, right?
coffee. Right.
Right, Kevin?
Well, I'm afraid I didn't bring anything as quite as neat as what Brian brought.
Bye,
But
bye, Dave.
Bye.
I have a flat car
Thanks a
that
lot.
was made by on contract for Menards, and it's available at menards.com. And it's a 42-foot flat car with a World War II era military 2.5-ton truck with a load of gas cans and a 55-gallon drum with a in olive drab with a bright red hand pump attached to the top of it, and a some type of gas cylinder. And then on the back end of the flat car is a round, it's either 150 or 200 gallon water trailer, and it has a small deck on the front with 3 5-gallon jerry cans on it. And the only real complaint that I have on this is that the couplers are short. I wish they had put longer couplers on it, because you have to match it to a car that's got longer couplers, or even on wide radius turns, it's going to cause an uncoupling. And the trucks are a bright silver metal, and we know that in real life they may get delivered that way, but they don't stay that way very long. But it's reasonably priced. It's one of several that Menards has, and you can find them at menards.com and just stick trains into the search box, and they've got a lot of stuff, including sets and individual pieces, and they've got quite a selection of buildings. And when we sign off here, I will be seeing Brian again shortly on the 14th of May for the Railroading Merit Badge Clinic at the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club with 140 Boy Scouts, and they will spend all day working on the Railroading Merit Badge, and hopefully they will all complete it. And Brian will, as usual, be one of the major presenters for the Operation Lifesaver material, and I get the easier task. I just have to feed everybody.
You cook yourself?
I have a very competent
Staff.
crew for the diner, and I have one of the members' dads cooks up the over 400 hot dogs we'll go through that day.
Oh, easily, right, I'm sure.
No, literally over
I'm sure,
400.
I'm sure. Hot dog.
That doesn't count the Polish sausages and the pizzas.
Stop at Mr. Beef on the way back then. I know you're going home. I don't either.
And a little bit of fun.
Can I just ask one question? Menards, is that the save more money at Menards company?
Yes.
Okay. I just thought.
And in a lot of the stores, you can order this online and ship it to the store, and you don't have to pay for shipping.
Whoa. On a train or a truck? Brian, we were saying something now.
Yeah, well, things are coming up. We have the garden, Chicago Botanic Gardens opening up. The Garden Railroad layout will be open starting May 7th. So people, when they come up to the Chicago Botanic Garden, they can see the Garden Railroad up there. I'll be working a couple days a week there throughout till October. And there's a place in Sun City up off of Route 47, 49. Sun City Retirement City.
Is that a nudist camp?
No,
One
no.
place.
And I said retirement
Oh, yeah.
community.
I couldn't resist that one. So.
Yeah, it's across from one of the outlet malls that are up there.
In Illinois here?
Yeah,
Can't picture.
that's why I said Route 47.
Yeah, I know. Something.
You go up 90 so far. It's about like 5 miles past the Fox River.
Okay, I know what you mean now. Yeah, over that way. Sure, familiar somewhat.
Yeah, and Sun City will be on your left when you go down. And I don't remember the full name, but they have an open house there. They actually have garden railroaders. Beautiful outside layout, and inside they have HO all scales, O and HO, and all they got together, and it's just fascinating. And now they have open house for anybody to come see.
How often they do that?
Twice a year.
Twice. Well, we should get hold of them. We can have one next time beforehand, or somebody with us. Huh?
I'll see if I can get somebody to give a call.
Yeah, or come on down here if they like.
But yeah, they have theirs. Open house will be May 15th.
Is there any?
Actually, May 5th, 14th, and May 15th.
Is there a website or address on that? I mean,
No, I don't have a website. I do have an address form, but I didn't bring it with
okay.
me.
No problem. We can find them.
Yeah, they didn't write it up in this issue.
Otherwise,
Yeah, it's in Sun City's actually Huntley.
Huntley. Okay, oh, Huntley. Okay. Huntley, okay. Okay. Well, you know what? I think that just like gets us to the end here. And you've done a yeoman's job. There'll be a little something extra in your pay envelopes this time.
Well, let's close out. He's got an announcement to make.
Go ahead.
Real quick, I got an email the other day from the Steam Railroad Institute, the 1225, which is the
Pierre Marquette.
The steam engine that the Polar Express was modeled after, will make its inaugural run of the season on the 4th of June up to Cadillac, Michigan, and back. Their phone number is 989-399-7589, and hidden down at the bottom of the ad says caboose tickets are $129 and coach tickets are $99. If you've ever seen the movie and fell in love with the engine, go ride the train. If you can't ride the train, go up there and see it. And they're going to be operating all summer long. I'm sure there'll be a date that works for you. And I don't know if there's any tickets left for the 20th Century Railroad Club running their dome car down to Galesburg for the train days down there, but you can go to their Google 20th Century Railroad Club and see if there's any availability left on that. And if not, Amtrak runs 2 trains a day down there. I know because my wife and I did that trip a couple of years ago, and it's great. And they have guided tours of the rail yard down there. You get in a bus, and you get to spend half an hour learning about all the stuff that goes on in the rail yard.
Yes.
Gentlemen, thank you for putting up with me.
Well, we're glad you're here. And we're glad you're here, Brian. And we're glad you're having us, John. It's a maudlin moment for all of us, and tears in our eyes. But we have come to the end of another show. So, remember, happy rails to you.
All aboard!
Twice pictures.
Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Join with us again next time when we take our railroad of imagination on our continuing journey through the wonderful world of trains. Chicago Junction is a production of the Windy City Hometown Radio Network and can be heard over this station as well as the WindyCityHometown.com, where recordings of all our shows may be heard. Once again, all aboard. This is your announcer, Brian Valou, say thank you for listening.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, April the 18th, the year 2016. Chicago Junction was produced by Jack Ryan, directed by John DeVita, and our audio engineer today is James Rohde. A special thanks to radio station manager Kevin Zeflik of WRHS FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Seconda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Thursday, April the 14th, the year 2016. Until next time, please be safe and thanks for listening.
This is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois.